Hi guys, we're going to get started with the first part of science. So we're starting the topic, where do plants and animals live? Now, we've been doing science for half a year now, and since we're getting close to second grade, some of the stuff I'm still going to do with you, but some of it you are going to be responsible to find, okay? So I might put like a star by something, or I'll circle it, and I'll tell you, you need to go find this, or I know you know an answer that can go here. So if I leave something blank, that doesn't mean you guys can leave it blank, okay? All right, so let's get started. It says, what animal might live in this environment? Well, looking at this environment, it looks like a desert. So think of some animals that might live here. I'm not going to write one here, but I'm going to give you a couple examples. Like, we know that there's lizards that live in the desert. There's certain kind of rabbits. They're called like a desert hare. They live in the desert. Gila monsters, those are those really, really big like lizards. So think of an animal that you could write here that would live in the desert environment. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's spelled right. Don't worry about your spelling. But you write something here. And then down at the bottom, here, I'm going to put my little star there. It says there's 3 vocabulary terms. Remember, when we're looking for vocabulary words, we're looking for those yellow highlighted words in the text. So when you come across them, make sure you come back and write them on the front. Okay, so if you want, pause me right now, go find those 3 words and write them. When I come to them, I'll read them and we'll talk about them too, okay? All right, now I also ripped my pages out of my book so that we could see it a little bit better. So I'm just turning my pages over, but you guys will just turn the page in your book, okay? All right, so let's read all around you. All the living and non-living things around you make up your environment. Here's our first vocabulary word. So if you didn't find them before, pause me now and go write it. A living thing lives in the environment that meets its needs. So remember, the environment is the area or like outside around us. Okay, so a living thing lives in the environment that meets its needs. So we were talking before, think back to like Thanksgiving time. Remember, like sharks and fish and octopus, their environment is the ocean and in the water. So different animals have different environments, remember, because they need different kinds of things to survive. Many animals need shelter. Shelter is a place where an animal can be safe. Here's our second vocabulary word. So we have environment and shelter so far. Now, we need to find the sentence that tells the meaning of the word shelter. So I want you to go back up. Look, where is it telling us about shelter? We need to underline it. I'll give you a second to find it. Right here. Shelter is a place where an animal can be safe. So you need to make sure that you underline that word. Down here, it looks like there's some foxes using this log. It looks like a hollowed out log. They're using that as a shelter. Okay, so our next page is salty water. An ocean environment is a large body of salty water. Its top layer is home to many living things. Here, plants and other living things get the sunlight they need. Animals can find food. So look at this big jellyfish. It says a jellyfish has body parts that help it catch its food. It's really kind of cool looking. And then kelp lives in the ocean. Many animals eat it. Now this is a like really zoomed in piece of kelp. Kelp kind of is like seaweed, so it kind of has the same properties to it, but this is just like really, really zoomed in under a microscope, so it looks really cool. We don't usually get to see all of this when you pick up a piece of seaweed, if you're brave enough to pick up a piece of seaweed. All right, now down here at the bottom, it says, why do many plants live in the top layer of the ocean? Well, I remember reading something that said the top layer is home to many living things. Here, plants and other living things get the sunlight they need. I think that's exactly what we want to write. Now, this is kind of a small area, so we don't need to write a complete sentence because it's not all going to fit, but we'll get as much as possible, okay? So we're going to write to get the sunlight they need. Now, if you need to pause me so that you can finish writing, go ahead, okay? And then I'll see you on the next page. All right, so I hope you got that all written. We're going to move on to the rainforest. It says, in a rainforest. A rainforest gets a lot of rain. The trees grow tall and block the sun. Many animals, such as birds and monkeys, use the tall trees for shelter. The shorter plants do not need much sunlight. The rainforest provides everything that this leopard needs to live. Now, there's going to be a lot of animals in a rainforest. We heard that there's birds, monkeys. We can see a leopard. I want you to think of some other animals that might live in a rainforest. We've talked about them before. I know usually people say like toucan right away because those are really colorful in the rainforest. We see those pretty quickly. I want you to think of another animal that lives in the rainforest. You're going to draw it down here. Don't forget to color it. Okay, so draw a rainforest animal that might live up in the trees. So think of some animals in the rainforest that would live in the trees and draw me a picture of it and color it. Don't forget to color. Okay, once you're done, I'll see you on the next page. All right, I can't wait to see what animals you guys drew for your rainforest. Now we're going to read dry as a bone. So I can guess looking at this picture and seeing dry as a bone, it's probably going to be a desert. A desert environment gets little rain. We were right. Plants such as cactuses store water in their thick stems. Other plants store water in their leaves. In hot deserts, many animals hide during the day. Now here, this is called a Joshua tree. This can be a shelter for small animals. I want you to think, why do you think big animals wouldn't use this for shelter? I'm hoping that you guys said because it's a pretty small tree. It's not very big. A big animal wouldn't be able to use it as shelter. All right, now we can see a couple different kinds of animals that live in the desert. Now before, on the front, we talked about a desert hare. Look at the size of his ears. Those are definitely bigger than the kind of animals or bunnies and hares, rabbits that we have around here. It says desert plants and animals can live with little water. So they've kind of adapted to live without a lot of water. They still need some. Here's that Gila monster. It's kind of like a big lizard. I don't really like lizards. And then down here it says draw a plant that stores water. Well, let's think. What's a plant that stores water? They usually grow in the desert. They're usually pretty thick stem, just like it said over here. I'm hoping you said a cactus. Draw me a picture of a cactus and don't forget to color it. Okay? And then we've got 2 pages to go. So once you're done with your cactus, I'll see you in a minute. All right. It's cold out here. A tundra is a very cold environment. I'm going to underline this word tundra, so we're going to come back to it in a minute. Plants grow close together near the ground. Animals have thick fur to stay warm. Now, a tundra is very, very cold. There's snow and ice pretty much all year round. If it starts to melt, it's usually not for very long. Okay. The reason that plants grow near the ground is so that they can keep their warmth. They can share like their nutrients from the ground. It gets really cold there. If they're growing really tall, they're just going to freeze and die off. Okay? And here we have an animal that stays warm with its thick fur. In the past, all of my students always think this animal looks really cute. It's a little Arctic fox. Its white fur helps it to hide in the snow. We had a vocabulary word that told us that same thing earlier in the school year. I want you to think, what is that word? I hope you came up with the word camouflage because he camouflages right into the snow. Now here's the little Arctic flowers. You can see how close they are to the rocks, so they're pretty low. All right, how does an Arctic fox's white fur, help it in winter? Well, what did we just come up with? It helps it to hide in the snow. It uses it as camouflage. So the white fur helps hide the, my finger's stuck. Hide the fox. Remember, you don't have to write exactly what I wrote. You can come up with your own answer. If you need to pause me, go ahead and pause it so you can finish writing, and we'll finish our last page, okay? All right, our last page is called On the Prairie. A prairie environment is mostly dry. It has just a few kinds of trees and shrubs. Large animals eat the tall grasses. Smaller animals live in the grasses. So look, we have these huge bison. They're kind of like buffalo. They need a big space to live because they're big animals and they eat quite a bit. So if they're in a small prairie or area together, they're not going to have a lot to eat, and then they're probably not going to survive for very long. All right, let's find our main idea, and then we're going to also find a detail about our main idea. Or no, we don't have to find a detail on this one, I'm sorry. We're going to underline it twice. Remember, the main idea is usually in the beginning of our paragraph. It's the most important thing in this paragraph, and the other sentences are all details supporting that main idea. So this whole paragraph was about a prairie. So a prairie environment is mostly dry. That's what our main idea is going to be. So draw 2 lines underneath that word. Okay? Or that sentence, I'm sorry. Then down here at the bottom it says, some bison move to places with trees in the winter. The trees provide shelter from the cold. So here in the prairie you might find some coneflowers, prairie dogs, and red-tailed hawks. Now we don't have, this is our last page for today, but we only found 2 out of the 3 vocabulary words for the front page here. We found, was it environment and shelter, right? Yep, so somewhere else in the rest of the lesson is the other vocabulary word. So if you found it today, make sure you write it on the front. Otherwise, if you wait until Thursday, don't forget to write it in the front. Okay? Good job. Bye, guys.